Aloha kako apau, and welcome to another segment of Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's Future. Presented by the Kiwani Foundation, I am Kaiopua Fife, and pleased to be here in Nu'alolokai on the Nepali coast of Kauai. Today with Maurice Mo Majors. Aloha Mo.
Aloha.
Mahalo for being here. Thank you for participating. As you can see, we caught Mo in the middle of one of his projects here in Nu'alolokai. You can see a lot of dirt, a lot of rocks. Mo is an archaeologist and has been coming into Nu'alolokai for how many years now, Mo?
10 or 12 years.
Yeah, 10 or 12 years. For your information, you may not have seen any of the segments that we do. Have you seen any of the Voices of Truth videos?
A few years ago.
Yeah. Our whole purpose is to kind of show the little positive things that are going on throughout Hawaii, to encourage people who may not be as optimistic as we are that there are good things happening, to let them know that there are people working at things that are beneficial to the future of Hawaii and to our communities, and to encourage those who are watching to kind of find something they're interested in and get involved in. Mo, you come all the way from North America, state of Virginia.
Far side, yeah.
Yeah, the far side of North America. Give us a little background on how you kind of worked your way from Virginia to Hawaii. I mean, a little background on yourself.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Virginia, which is sort of a giant ahupua'a on the east coast, and I was midway between the mountains and the sea,
Yeah.
but an hour or so from either one.
Right.
And I went to school in Washington, D.C. and met my wife there, and when we got married, we decided we didn't want to be in Washington, D.C. anymore.
I can understand that.
Beltway.
Yeah.
And so we came to Hawaii. We thought we'd try it out for a year. She taught elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And we came for a year, and then another, and we stayed here for 11 years.
For 11 years. So your course of study, she was studied education, I guess.
Right.
Huh? And
Elementary education, and
yeah.
I studied anthropology, and I got a master's degree at University of Hawaii at Manoa.
So you wound up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
As opposed to any place else in the world.
Right. Right. And I had studied cultural anthropology as an undergraduate.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved here, we knew my wife would have a job, but an anthropology degree doesn't mean a job.
Right.
But I was
not like a real job.
Yeah, I was lucky, or some would say unlucky, to get a job at Bishop Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing I did was archaeology on the H3 project.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was sort of birthed by fire.
Yeah.
But I
jumped right into the middle of something there.
Learned a few things there, and subsequently went to Molokai because there was a project there, and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go see something other than a pending highway.
A highway cutting through a lot of important stuff.
Right, and Halava Valley was a beautiful place.
Oh my goodness. What was that project about?
Well, that project was to go study the archaeology in the valley,
Mm-hmm.
and determine what kind of impact the highway was going to have, which of course it's a elevated highway through part of it, so they're big concrete piers, and then it's on the ground and
Mm-hmm.
cuts through Halava,
Mm-hmm.
and then through on the windward side.
And that was under the auspices of?
That was Department of Transportation
Department of
hired
Transportation.
Bishop Museum, which was doing a lot of what they
Okay.
call contract archaeology
Right.
at that point.
And then Molokai was about what?
And Molokai was about studying the whole southwest corner of the island, just walking around, and it was a bunch of people from Bishop Museum and a bunch of people from Molokai.
So you were still with Bishop Museum at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
And went over to Molokai for, I don't know how many months, it might have been 6 months overall.
Did you live on Molokai during that period of
Lived
time?
on Molokai during
The wife
that
go
time.
along with you?
My wife was at home most of the time, and then probably once a month I get to go home or something.
And
she
home at
came
that
over
time?
and visited.
Home at that time being in Honolulu?
Honolulu.
Oh, okay. And she was teaching then?
She was teaching then.
Oh, okay. So you were kind of
Yeah.
on the road a bit.
Yeah, and her first job was teaching at Hauula, and we lived in downtown Honolulu, so it was sort of a good introduction for her too.
Mm-hmm. And then how did that phase into your relationship that got you here to this particular site on Kauai?
Well, I had a friend who worked for state parks,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard about this project, and I volunteered to come out.
Okay.
At that point, because it sounded really interesting, and
Mhm.
I had read about the sites here a little bit, but I didn't know that much more than that. We came out and we were going to clear and map these archaeological sites, and that's been happening ever since.
Right. I know when we first came in, it was with Alan Carpenter, and Martha Yent came in, and some other folks, and it was for a reinterment
Right.
of some remains that have been returned from, I don't know if it was Bishop Museum.
Bishop Museum,
Or, yeah,
as a
Bishop
matter
Museum.
of fact, yeah.
Right. And we got hooked on the place, and then decided we would start coming out and cleaning it up and trying to get some idea
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah.
of course we were working in conjunction with state parks
Right.
at that time, Allen folks, and then you.
Right.
How did you get to state parks?
Well, it turned out that a couple of years later, a job opened up at state parks,
So position was it?
and I applied for that and got it. And then I continued coming out here
As a part of
as
your real
a state
job,
parks
then, huh?
employee. Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually got paid for it while everybody else was volunteering.
Well,
but
and that's fine because
uh,
I mean we
but
had.
it's a really important thing, I
Mhm.
feel, for state parks to malama the places,
Right.
and that's what this became, rather than just we're going to make a map.
Right.
It's like we're going to do more than it takes just to shoot a map and forget about it.
Mhm.
We've kept these places clean through Nepali Coast, Ohana, and
Right.
all the community people who come in.
Yeah, there's so much that transpired, and how people came in and became a part of it is almost kind of a blur for me now. But I mean, at early on, talking about Nepali Coast Ohana, Mike Wilson was the head of DLNR at that point in
Right.
time, and he was just totally in love with the Nepali Coast. And so we just happened to have someone who was in a position who had the same interests that we did, and were able to put together Nepali Coast Ohana nonprofit, and started coming in here regularly. So I mean, every year we've had anywhere from 3 to 5 accesses, working trips
Yeah.
during the season, and it's been quite an experience. I mean, what we're looking at now is a far cry from what we first encountered when we got here, and particularly we're looking at this background here. We're kind of sitting above what was kind of a pool area. I think you have a concept about that, but this has been kind of a fixation for you for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. It started because I think it's really important in archaeology to be able to spend time at the place and not just
Mhm.
come in and do your thing and go,
Right.
because you never understand the place in the kind of depth that is possible. And over 10 years of coming back through
Mhm.
here, taking care of the place.
Hmm.
There had been taro in the lo'i before. Maybe it's not a lo'i. All
Mhm.
sorts of ideas run through your head
Right.
over the course of this many years.
Right.
So
You get a real sense or a feel for the
Yeah.
place, and I guess things evolve as
Yeah.
you experience it more and get into it more and more in depth.
end up coming back to this particular spot.
Yeah, and here we are again today. I
Here
mean,
we are.
I can remember the first time that Saber and I came in here with that initial reinterment trip, and actually came down and sat by the little well there's a little water source down here below, and I swear I could hear children, people laughing and just having a great time, and it was like the people who were here years,
Yeah.
years and decades
Yeah.
and centuries ago, spirits are still here,
Yeah.
and the good feeling is still here. So this is a real special place to me. But the whole little area here has been quite important to us. So we've been
Right.
involved in it, and of course what you're doing here today is part of kind of a emergency repair job down
Right.
below that you took a look when you came in and said this has got to be
Yeah.
kind of shored up and temporarily at
Yeah,
least.
so the wall started to collapse
Mhm.
a few years ago. A tree branch hit it, and it needed to be fixed. But there are so many things to be done here.
Right,
When we
right.
first came in, there was iniki deadfall all over, and it was just
Yeah.
incredibly tangled. So the first thing we took care of the cemetery. Yeah.
Surface
we-
burials.
yeah,
Yeah. Surface burials over here.
So kind of honor the people who were here before us.
Right.
But at this point, we're at the last trip of the summer.
Mhm.
In the winter, you might get some heavy downpours here, and
No doubt.
it's so that's a time when this can erode, and this whole surface is beginning to erode, and so we felt like we have to fix it.
Right.
Um,
So we came in with certain things in mind that we were going to do, and we accomplished so far, I think, everything that our first group was supposed to accomplish, but additionally, we realized that this kind of critical situation existed here, so I'm glad to see you get in and
yeah.
maybe help shore up this temporary break, or this break until we can do
Yeah.
a more permanent
Yeah.
restacking later on, and hopefully it'll make it through the winter without further damage. I mean, you talked about torrential rains and things collapsing, but I mean we've got animals to deal with who contribute to
The goats.
some of the destruction.
So
Yeah, we
this
call them
had collapsed partly, and then the goats start using it as a trail, and it
Yeah.
falls apart more. And
Yeah. So every time they track through, they knock another rock or another few pebbles away, and pretty soon you've got a ramp where there used to be a wall. So I'm glad we got that shored up.
And
Yep.
the land speaks. The sites and the place tell you what needs to be done to a certain degree. I mean, we
Right.
come in with plans, and over the
Right.
years, we've kind of together we've all made this progress.
Yeah.
But this time, this wall was down, and that had to be done.
Right.
There's a lot of lantana, which is a really nasty, invasive
Yep.
species.
Yeah.
And yet it was dry enough and clear enough this time. We had a unique chance to go in and
actually remove it. Yeah, it was
out.
amazing. We had I think we came in with nine people on this early trip. 9, huh?
Yeah.
And
we had people kayak in and help on this.
yeah,
as well.
actually a couple kayaked over who were taking advantage of this holiday weekend and came over and spent the day with us yesterday pulling up lantana. What about dedication? What kind of dedication is that? But that's a level of attachment that a lot of people have made to this place. I mean, it's amazing because what we can do when we come in here, I mean, we have a lot of fun. We enjoy each other's company.
We eat
but-
okay.
We eat all right. The food is pretty good. We have a chef who used to do New York catering for Will Smith's family when he was residing in Manhattan, and so we don't suffer on the food end. But I'll tell you what, during the day there's a lot of hard work, a lot of perspiration. This is a paradise, but it's warm. It gets warm, and unfortunately, as the sun moves around, areas that we need to work in become full-blown subject to the sun's rays, and
What
actually
was
today,
once a pool is an
Yeah.
emu right now.
yeah, and so you spent the better part of the hottest part of the day down here patching up this wall. So I mean, there's a lot of hard work, but as you said, our objectives kind of evolve and in response to what we see is kind of a priority, and a lot of that is a function of our discussions at night when we sit around and kind of analyze,
Right.
you know, what are the priorities? Did we see something that's changing? How do we manage things? We had a great opportunity to talk last night after supper with Patty Boy Malama, and
Yeah.
he made recommendations. We were talking about the problem with goats and so forth. He had some really good recommendations for that. So it's just been a great exchange. So you're in here for this, actually it's almost going to be, what,
A little over a week.
a little over a solid week between the two working groups. We go out in the morning when another group bails on, comes in the morning. And so you'll stay here with them and then come out. And that'll be just about the last access we're going to make this year, because the ocean, it's kicking up already, getting kind of rough out there. So next year we'll start over again. You've been involved since the very start when it was doing the basic
Chainsaw and haul.
chainsaw cleanup, up to clean up and map. When you're doing these drawings, you call that mapping? Is that mapping?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah, that's what we call it.
Yeah.
Cartographers could disagree, but we
Yeah.
draw all the sites that are on the ground here, and
The features.
1/100th of the real size,
Right.
and that's to help us know what's here. You know, you get a different view when you can see the whole
Right.
picture sort of
Right.
from above, but also to protect it. To Malama the place, you know, we want to know where the walls are.
Right.
Want to be able to do what we're doing now, which is move into restoring. Now we've mapped everything. Let's
Right.
put it back. A lot of walls have been knocked over by goats. And
Well, so we've got almost 12 years and kind of mapping the archaeological, the features that you're talking about that remain. And there may be some areas that still require some additional detail, huh? But I mean, the majority of it's been done, and fortunately, this is kind of a manageable area. And it's amazing to see the drawings as they come together with the different features, so that you can get an overview. You mentioned, I think it was yesterday, now that we've got so much cleared, and with the drought that has taken place and so much of the vegetation down, you mentioned that you were up above and looking down and got kind of another concept of how things were related down here.
Right, you can see how things developed over time.
That's the amazing thing, because these are not weren't static sites. I mean, they were evolving over decades and maybe even centuries.
Yeah, and stonework like this, you know, because it's not cemented together in Western way. It's set in place, and one of the things that you can do with that is, after a generation, you want to change your halle or you want to move it over there, you can take it apart and do that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you see on the landscape in so many places in the islands.
Yeah, well, that's what I know, that some of the sites on Hawaii Island, you know, that my family's kind of affiliated with. I mean, some of the work that's been done over there has been amazing, because it's kind of tracked the evolution of sites, I mean, over centuries. I mean, different usages, and from a little bit of development, so to speak, into, I mean, full-blown organized communities, essentially. So, and I'm wondering, the more you see this place, and the more you work on it, what are your thoughts about the place, or have you given much thought as to what its use was over time, or do you even want to go there?
No, but it's funny because you're talking about how things change over time, and that's what I'm seeing right now. This dirt is what came out when the wall fell down.
Right.
So I just sort through it and see what we find. And there's some bottle glass that looks like it could be early 20th century or 19th century, and there is a stone file that could be 800 years old. and it just shows,
rubbing,
what I see about
yes.
this place is that there are all sorts of different functions. There's a heiau, and there's a spring, and there's, a pool or a lo'i or something that we can't even think of today.
Right.
Maybe all three over time. And Hawaiians are here to this day.
Right.
In a strict sense, nobody has lived here in a house year round for 100 years.
Yeah.
But people live here in the summer in a way. I mean, the reef and
The resources
the
on
resources
ocean
here. People are, families are still here. The family is sitting
Yeah.
at the pavilion now.
Yeah.
Uncle is making a bowl right now.
Yeah.
So,
It's amazing, and the attachment that, and this Nu'ulo'o Kai actually is attached to the Hawaiian community on the west side, right?
right.
And so there are several ohana over there who still visit regular. We mentioned Patty Boy Malama. We are hoping to get an interview with him at some point, but this is a home. This is like his second home, maybe his first. I don't know, but I mean, he spends all of his time here. He's constantly helping to clean up and patch things. Kind of keeps the younger generations in line along the coast, about letting them know what the protocols
In this
are.
community, he's a leader.
Unquestionably. I mean, years ago, there's a song came out about Patty Boy Malama, King of the Public Coast, and I mean, he's so highly respected. I mean, we were just up at the pavilion where he's been holding forth, and we had 2 or 3 boat loads of young Kanaka who were taking advantage of this big this holiday weekend, and they come in and they pay respects to him, Uncle Patty Boy. And so he's maintaining, from his childhood, the relationship here. I mean, you remember, been a couple years now, but when we brought in Auntie Margaret Aipualani,
Right.
wasn't that remarkable?
Right.
Who was as a really young child used to come here frequently. So you mentioned there hadn't been anyone living here for the last century, but there are people here on Kauai who descend from those who did, and
They're still part of
have
this
an
place.
attachment. They still have an attachment to it. So, you mentioned the cemetery, and it's really some surface burials that are over here. And so we have people who probably still have a relationship to that, or maybe they don't even know about it, but they know there's a connection here. And of course there are the ancient burials and so forth. But to be a part of this is pretty important. I mean, we've been doing the grunt work of cleanup. You folks have been doing kind of the mechanical work of the mapping, archaeological features, and kind of trying to synthesize concepts out of it. How things were utilized and so forth, and that's still evolving. But we keep coming back, and it's interesting. From all those years of the archaeological aspect, and now we have ethnobotanists as another phase coming in. You mentioned our lantana pulling efforts, and that's to get rid of some of this invasive stuff. And the intent is to restore what belonged here earlier. And a lot of what you find in these the screening stuff that you go through is seeds and indications of what existed here previously.
Right. And we're able to use that, along with what plants grow in this part of Nepali naturally.
Right.
We can look at the charcoal and find out what was growing here before, at least what was growing here that ended up in the fireplace.
Yeah.
And it's, the Ohana has been making a lot of progress too already in the vegetation. There used to be castor bean here, and there's no castor bean here now. The noni, which is a plant that the Hawaiians wanted, is thriving.
Yeah, there's
and
a
it
noni
offers
forest.
shade. Without this canopy, we'd be
Noni forest. I was talking with Alona, one of the boat captains, tour boat captains out. Told him, he heard we were pulling all this lantana. And he said, well, next year it's going to be back. And I said, not as heavy as it has been.
Right.
And he says, yeah, you know what, castor, the castor bean, castor plant. He said, that used to be thick. He says, you know what? He said, I don't remember seeing any lately.
Yeah.
And that's
We
all.
just keep at it year
Yeah.
after year.
You just keep
chop
going.
off the big ones, you pull up the small ones, and
Yeah.
after a few years they give up.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and keeping back and coming back. But each time it gets a little bit easier.
Right.
And I mean, to just sit here, have the being fortunate enough to be able to sit here and look at this place now, it's just almost unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, I can hardly remember how trashed it was before.
Yeah. And it's always felt like a really special place.
Yeah.
But all the aloha that's going into it
Yeah.
is making it even more.
I think it's
growing over time.
I think it's that aloha, that caring, all the people who come in and volunteer their time and their different skills, and we're calling for more and more different skill sets as we expand, kind of the mission here. And so we certainly appreciate your returning and returning and returning.
I appreciate being able to do it.
Well,
I look at it as
we talked
just,
about that. The place is so special, and the people who are attracted to it are so special. I mean, everybody has. It just seems to be this place. Places like these seem to bring out, and efforts like these seem to bring out the best in people, I think. So we have a great time. But at any rate, Brother Maurice Majors from Virginia. We really appreciate your being here, and we appreciate those of you who are taking a look. These special sites exist everywhere in Hawaii, and we have people all over the different islands who are taking care of sites that are close to their families, or that are they just happen to be a part of because it's in their community. And so we offer these as another example of opportunities to take part in things that make our communities what they are. So if something like this, if good, big, hard work and a lot of tiring, exhausting labor out in the sun is your kind of thing, maybe you ought to take a look into one of these special places that's close to your ohana or your community, and get involved in it. So I'd like to say thank you very much once again. Voices of Truth, presented by the Kiwane Foundation. Look for another segment. We have several of them coming here from New Olokai, and we hope you'll tune in and meet some of the great people who are helping to make this great effort move forward. I'm Kaiopua Fife with the Kiwane Foundation. Mahalo nui loa, aloha, ahui ho.